You are standing in a valley in what is now northern Spain. It's 40,000 years ago. And somewhere nearby, watching you from the tree line, is someone who is not you. Not quite. Heavier brow, broader chest, stronger than you in almost every measurable way, a Neanderthal. And here's the part that should bother you. They had been surviving in Europe for over 300,000 years before your species ever showed up. They outlasted ice ages that would have erased entire modern nations. They hunted animals twice the size of a car with sharpened wood. And then, within a few thousand years of meeting people who looked like you, they were gone, completely. Every single one. So what actually happened? Because the real answer is stranger, messier, and honestly more unsettling than cavemen went extinct. It might be the closest thing we have to a murder mystery spanning 40,000 years, and we're still not entirely sure whether it was a murder at all. Let's start with what Neanderthals actually were, because the popular image is almost completely wrong. They weren't dumb. They weren't hunched-over ape men grunting at rocks. Neanderthal brains were, on average, slightly larger than ours. They made complex stone tools, controlled fire, wore clothing, buried their dead, and there's growing evidence they made art, cave markings in Spain, that predate modern humans arriving in Europe by tens of thousands of years. They survived Ice Age winters that would kill an unprepared modern human in hours. For over 300,000 years, they were the most successful hominin species in Europe and Western Asia. Then, roughly 45,000 years ago, something changed. Homo sapiens started moving into Neanderthal territory in larger numbers. And within about 5 to 10,000 years, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, Neanderthals were gone from the fossil record entirely. So the obvious question is, did we kill them? And for a long time, that was basically the assumption. Modern humans show up, Neanderthals disappear. Connect the dots. But the actual evidence for direct violence is surprisingly thin. There are a handful of Neanderthal skeletons with injuries that could be consistent with weapon wounds, but they're rare, and honestly, ancient humans and Neanderthals both had violent lives in general. Injuries from hunting, from each other, from just existing in a brutal world. There's no mass grave. There's no smoking gun. No site where archaeologists found 100 Neanderthal skeletons with spear points lodged in their ribs. If modern humans wiped out an entire species through direct warfare, they left remarkably little evidence of it. Which means the real story is probably not a war. It's something slower, and in some ways that's worse. Here's theory number 1, and it's the one that gets the least attention despite being one of the strongest. We didn't replace the Neanderthals. We absorbed them. In 2010, the Neanderthal Genome Project delivered one of the biggest surprises in modern genetics. Almost every person alive today who isn't of sub-Saharan African descent carries Neanderthal DNA. Somewhere between 1 and 4% of your genome, if you're of European or Asian ancestry, came directly from Neanderthals. That's not a coincidence or a fluke. That's the result of actual interbreeding, generation after generation, for thousands of years, across the exact regions and exact time periods where the two species overlapped. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If modern humans and Neanderthals were having children together regularly enough to leave a genetic signature that survived 40,000 years, were Neanderthals really wiped out, or were they slowly folded into a growing modern human population until there simply weren't enough pure Neanderthals left to count as a separate group anymore? In this version of the story, Neanderthals didn't go extinct in the way a dinosaur goes extinct. They dissolved. Their genes are still walking around today, scattered across billions of people who have no idea they're carrying a piece of a species that supposedly died out 40,000 years ago. But interbreeding alone doesn't explain the whole picture, because Neanderthal populations were already in trouble before modern humans even arrived in large numbers. And this is where things get genuinely bleak. Genetic analysis of Neanderthal remains shows something researchers didn't expect. Their populations were small. Really small. Estimates suggest the total Neanderthal population across all of Europe and Western Asia may have peaked at somewhere around 10 to 70,000 individuals total, spread across an entire continent, over hundreds of thousands of years. For comparison, that's smaller than the population of a single medium-sized modern town, spread across a landmass bigger than the continental United States. Small populations are fragile. They're vulnerable to inbreeding, to genetic diseases, to random bad luck wiping out an entire local group in one bad winter. One Neanderthal skeleton found in a cave in Spain shows signs of significant physical deformities, likely caused by generations of a small, isolated, inbred group. Neanderthals weren't a thriving global superpower right before we showed up. They may have already been a species stretched thin, holding on in scattered, fragile pockets. And into that fragile situation walked a new competitor with a critical advantage: numbers. Modern human populations, even early on, appear to have grown larger and denser than Neanderthal populations ever did. And in evolutionary terms, sheer population size matters enormously. Larger populations recover faster from disasters. They exchange ideas and technology faster because there are simply more people to invent things and pass them on. They're more resilient to a single bad hunting season or a single harsh winter. Neanderthals might not have lost a war. They may have simply been outnumbered in the most basic biological sense, outcompeted not through violence but through sheer reproductive math. Then there's climate, and this is where the theories start fighting each other. Europe 45,000 years ago was swinging through violent temperature shifts, some happening within a single human lifetime. One especially brutal cold snap, sometimes called the Hemerik event, hit right around the time Neanderthal populations were already declining. Case closed, right? Climate killed them. Except, modern humans were living through that exact same freezing chaos. Same continent, same ice, same collapsing food supply. So if climate alone explains it, why did one species crumble while the other pushed straight through? That's the hole in the climate theory, and it's exactly the hole the diet theory tries to fill. Neanderthals appear to have leaned hard on large game, mammoths, woolly rhinos, dangerous close-range kills. Modern humans ate almost everything: fish, shellfish, birds, smaller game, a much wider range of plants. One food source crashing during a climate shift takes you down with it. A dozen food sources means you bend instead of break. Solid theory. But it still doesn't fully explain the numbers, because some Neanderthal populations vanished in regions where large game wasn't even scarce yet. So maybe it isn't about food at all. Maybe it's about who you can call for help when things go wrong. Modern human sites from this period show something Neanderthal sites mostly don't: long-distance trade. Shells and materials found hundreds of kilometers from their origin point, proof that different modern human groups were connected, trading, exchanging resources across huge distances. Neanderthal groups, by comparison, look isolated, smaller, self-contained, cut off from each other. And a connected group survives a bad year differently than an isolated one does. If your valley gets hit by disaster and you've got neighbors 200 kilometers away trading with you, you borrow resources, you borrow mates, you borrow time. If you're alone, you just absorb the hit. Some researchers now argue this: not violence, not intelligence, not even diet, might be the actual difference maker. Not a single dramatic collapse, just one species quietly running out of neighbors to call on, valley by valley, for 10,000 years. And underneath every single one of these theories sits the same uncomfortable detail we already know is true. Modern humans and Neanderthals were having children together, which means even if climate thinned them out, and even if diet made them fragile, and even if isolation left them stranded, the actual ending for a lot of Neanderthal lineages may not have been dying out at all. It may have been marrying in. So which theory is actually right? Honestly, probably all of them, layered on top of each other. Neanderthals likely entered this period already fragile. Small, scattered, isolated populations, barely holding on through unstable climate. Modern humans arrived with larger numbers, wider diets, and stronger social networks connecting distant groups. In some places, that meant direct competition for the same shrinking resources. Competition Neanderthals were poorly positioned to win. In other places, it likely meant something closer to absorption. Interbreeding, folding Neanderthal lineages directly into the expanding modern human population. And running underneath all of it, an unstable climate was quietly stacking the odds against the group, with fewer numbers and less flexibility to begin with. There probably wasn't a single dramatic ending. No final battle, no last stand. Just a slow, uneven decline playing out differently in different valleys and different caves across thousands of years. Until one day the last small, isolated Neanderthal group simply didn't have enough people left to survive the next hard winter. And maybe that's the part that should actually sit with you. We didn't necessarily conquer the Neanderthals, we may have simply outlasted them. Through numbers, through flexibility, through connection to people far away we'd never met. And in the process, we absorbed a piece of them so thoroughly that they never really disappeared at all. If you carry Neanderthal DNA, and there's a good chance you do, then somewhere in your body, right now, is a fragment of a species that hunted mammoths in the snow, buried its dead with flowers, and survived ice ages your entire modern civilization would never withstand. They didn't vanish. They became part of the story that led to you standing here, reading this, 40,000 years later, still asking what happened to them,